I suppose, lads, we're just going to do a review of 2024 on our livestock side of the business. So I suppose, look, we're obviously covering both Ireland and the UK, and we've seen a lot happen, I suppose, over the last 12 months. So we're coming in outside early December, so it's a good time to look back. Maybe, Pat, if I can ask you, maybe this time last year, and for what happened since, could you, maybe some key points that you've seen?
Yeah, I suppose, Bertie, again, the seasonality, the spring calving, I suppose, is a lot of what we do over here in Ireland, myself and Noel, but the lads will comment maybe then again on maybe more even spread in the UK. But what we've seen, I suppose, in the last 12 months, even 24 months, is that normally we would see September as being our busiest month for in-calf heifers, the scanning calf and moving at that stage. What we have seen in the last 2 years definitely has been a swing that it's October, November, that we're actually busier. That I suppose buyers are just holding on to seeing what prices are going to be like and what way their own stock on farm are going to finish up before they go ahead and purchase in other stock. And again, maybe funds getting cull cows out of the yard before they bring in other stock with nitrates and a whole pile of other regulations that are there now for farmers as well. So it's been a busy year. Again, we see in the spring that the freshly calved stock, there's going to be demand for those again. And I suppose with milk price rising, we have seen this year that stock close to producing milk, that's where the highest prices are being given. Again, we saw that in the autumn trade this year. We've seen it now already for the spring trade. We'd say heifers that are calving in January, they're fetching the higher prices. That it is the animals closer to milk are the ones that are most expensive.
Is it fair to say this spring, it was a tough spring for farmers both in Ireland and the UK, dairy farmers?
Yeah.
So it affected demand, I guess, and affected things.
It did. It just meant the year was slower to kick off, I suppose, really. Obviously the weather played havoc on farm. The thing we saw as well, again, I suppose, Bertie, is like the April calvers, which maybe one man's rubbish is another man's gold. They were stock that the seller didn't want. They were the end of his block, but then somebody maybe who was calving slightly later was very, very happy to get them, and there was a good trade for those. Probably what got hit the most was calves. Calves are very hard to move in the spring.
Right.
Whether that will change this spring or not, it's hard to know, but definitely the stock getting closer to production is where the demand is at.
Right. Matthew, you're based there in the middle of England there. So what have you seen? Has it been similar to Ireland, or how have you seen the year go so far?
Similar picture, Bertie. The bad weather in the April last year put a slow start to it. Again, like Pat said, the young stock did suffer with that. Demand was there for fresh calf cows. It's continued there all season really. Fresh calf cows is where the trade's at, and also something close to calving. Spring calf heifers, there's demand there at the moment.
Like there's always been a tendency in the UK for farmers to when they're buying a group, they always buy close to calving. They don't like to typically hold an animal that's maybe pregnant for 4 or 5 months. They typically want to move closer to the time which is calving.
Yeah, cash flow's been tight in the UK, from the back of high tax bills the year before and bigger feed costs last spring. Cash is tight on farm, so the quicker the return on the capital is, the better it is for the farmer. Demand is there for the fresh calved and the ones close to calving, and people delaying purchasing in calf heifers for next spring until near the time they're trying to see if they can wait till January to purchase them, which, again, milk price is good, so, I can see the trade being good for fresh calf cows next year as well.
So John, we would probably have seen the milk price rose that bit quicker in the UK. We've seen it maybe in August, you saw it faster in the UK. Mm-hmm. Has that helped sentiment? Or?
Yeah, I mean, mostly with the autumn calvers, been fantastic demand for autumn calved cows. As Matthew's just said, sort of freshly calved, but milk in the tank straight away. Cash is tight, and some people have bought on finance, so obviously they want to get the return quick to help fund the repayments on that. And seasonality has helped as well. Seasonality is, particularly with Arla changing their payment structure to offset their spring, so there has been people moving from spring calving to autumn calving. We've got a couple of people looking to do that. So yeah, the milk price sentiment has been good this autumn, and let's hope that stays.
Yeah. So Noel, can I ask, what have you seen over the last few months? Buyers, sellers, or what's in their mind, or what?
Yeah, I suppose look over the last 18 months, and Pat already alluded to it. Like there's a lot less demand for young stock. I think the derogation or the loss of the derogation going from 250 to 220 in not on every farm but on a lot of farms means that people do not want young stock eating into their nitrates. For those who are hit with that derogation, and so there people who are people are reducing numbers because of it, and the obvious thing to do would be to reduce young stock numbers. So a lot of young stock would have come available, and equally some of the buyers who may have previously bought young stock, losing their derogation, they're not on the market then. And I think that's a trend over the past 18 months, and don't really see a reason for it to discontinue, to be honest. I think you could look at that as a seller, you might look at that as a negative, but equally as a buyer you could look at that as an extreme positive, because there's value in young stock now, and it's a prime opportunity to upgrade your herd. You know, like just currently now we're now in late November, so there's top quality calves, probably calves in the top 10%, 5% in the country are available now at prices that they would normally be making in kind of May-June period, for example. So the other side of it is cull cow prices is very good at the moment, beef price is very good at the moment. So again, there's an opportunity to make that flip. Sell some cull cows, or sell extra cull cows, upgrade the herd, remove the rubbish, and upgrade with either in-calf heifers now or high quality calves that are there at value. In terms of prices, prices were probably, you know, the question is asked every year by people, well, what are in-calf heifers going to make in the back end? And they're always predicated by two things. One is milk price, which is very good, and two is the grass growing summer. Are the silage clamps full? If both of those things come together, well then generally stock prices or in-calf heifer prices are high. But they were average this year, primarily because the clamps weren't full and there was a lot of winter feed worries. So again, it's late November, probably right through November up to now really the weather's been very good. It meant people were able to keep stock out. It meant that they were feeding their silage. So now currently at the moment there's a lot of buyers after coming forward because the winter feed worry isn't as bad. So equally then we would probably expect prices in the spring to be strong, because again it brings those people who were worried about winter feed, they're going to come to the market. The winter will be over in January or February maybe or whenever. They're going to come to the market in earnest, wanting the stock, to buy the stock which they normally would have bought the previous October. So the expectation is for prices to be high. Sellers then might say, okay, it might be rubbing their hands to say, yeah, okay, great, I'm going to get plenty from my calved heifers, but you have to remember, if you're usually selling in-calf heifers and you're going to keep them, or you didn't get them sold and you're going to keep them until they're calved, you got to remember probably for every 10 heifers that you calve, there's probably maybe one of them might calve with a problem or a slight problem that you're not going to get a sale for. You might calve down 3/4, you might get metritis or some infection or something like that. So it's not all rosy if you're a seller then, because you ultimately you take that risk as well. But we would expect the market to be strong in the spring for 2025, to be honest.
Herd sales then, Noel, on a similar vein, will there be demand for herds?
Yeah, we think so. So again, probably the issue with that then is that everybody wants the best. If people are either getting into dairying or if they're coming back from a TB repopulation or something like that, they want the best they can get. And I suppose there isn't a huge number of high quality herds in the market. You know, we have currently, I'd say we probably have somewhere around maybe 6 or 7 herds that are available. Some of them are very good, and they range in size from maybe 50 up to, I think we've one at the moment at 300. But it's trying to get those quality herds is the challenge for us at the moment, you know. So yeah.
And so Pat, what is keeping people in milk production that might have otherwise considered maybe 4 or 5 months ago, I'm going to get out, just having that initial conversation? There's obviously been a slight change of mindset maybe.
It definitely, Bertie, I would say that the last couple of months the weather has been absolutely critical to what we're doing daily. You know, I don't think it can be overestimated like how important that end of September where there was actually extra silage made, and then you're going into the middle of November, end of November, stock was still out on farm. And if that had flipped the other way, it could have been a bloodbath for the end of the year.
Yes.
Do you really believe that everyone was so worried about the feed clamps, as Noel was saying there, and again to keep stock out grazing, like it was just key. That would have definitely had a factor, I think, in some people's minds. The other thing, I suppose, unfortunately, that happened, guys who were getting out of cows, they didn't breed the cows during breeding season, so the decision was made at that stage. And with the high cull cow prices, looking at that might have been a good decision. You don't want to see it happening, but that would have happened in certain cases. And I don't think the flush of herds that everybody thought was going to, or the mass exodus that was happening, I don't think that has come to fruition at all.
There was a lot of conversations and chat about that.
Yeah, I don't see it. No, I haven't seen that on the ground, Bertie. That there's that. Yes, there is people getting out, but there is still farmers getting in. Even though that's not been publicised very well, I suppose. But there is still new entrants ringing us constantly. You know, not to the scale that it was. Don't get me wrong, not to the scale that it was, but they're still happening, and guys getting extra ground on the milking platform and looking to expand and looking for cows. Again, there might be a short lease. They need to get milk in the tank fast if the new venture that they're trying to take on is going to work. But no, the volume of herds that was to come out didn't come out, and I don't think it will. But yeah, it's trying to get that quality, and it's good to see people are looking for the quality now, you know.
Matthew, we saw, I suppose, a resurgence of UK buyers in the summer, and they came earlier to the market for autumn calving cows. Why did that happen this year as opposed to last year?
Yes, I guess one of the main things is the blue tongue in Europe. Export stock from continental Europe to the UK back in June now. So all those cows that have been coming in, which would probably be about 10,000 cows in that period, have been found from inside the UK. Yes, there has been, numerous herd sales. A lot of people have taken the opportunity to get out, and they found the cows there. But the man that would normally buy the cows from the market hasn't been able to afford that because the high input boys have paid the bigger money in the market. So the middle ground man has been looking further afield for cows. The cows in Ireland have suited that system. That the cows that are capable of doing the 8,000 litres on a grass and grass silage based system. And we saw a big demand last year, and we saw it early. We sold a lot of autumn calving cows back in last May, June, early June. But for the last 2-3 years now, we haven't been able to keep up with supply. The demand for autumns is growing every year. Milk buyer driven a little bit, I'd have said. Would you not, John? And I can't see that changing this next 12 months, if not going the other way.
Totally the other way, yeah.
Yeah, there is groups of bull and heifers been around this back end. As Pat was saying, young stock are at value at the moment. But I think we've spoken to a lot of breeders, both spring calvers and autumn calvers. They are going to rear these extra heifers now, turn them into autumns. There has been a lot of empty cows served back for autumn. I think we will have more numbers available next year, but demand is forever growing really for the autumns.
So for Irish viewers, maybe trying to add value to some of their stock for that summer calving, autumn calving period, I suppose a couple of things. What type of animal should they be trying to breed, and ideally when would they be calving if they have animals that fit that?
Yeah, for the autumn block system, the ideal animal would be that 550 kilo black and white cow. August, September calving in an autumn system is equivalent to the February, March calving in a spring system. So, any black and white animal, the demand is so big for the autumns. I think, if they've got crossbreds, large size crossbreds, there'd be a market for them. We've never had a situation where we can't sell autumn calving stock, and I think that's been for the last 2-3 years now, hasn't it, really?
It is, definitely, yeah.
If it's, keep serving them now, like we're still in November, end of November, so we're still in August, September calving. Is for the next month, just keep serving away. There's cows there that have no major issues, young cows under 5 lactations. There will be a market for them in the UK.
Yeah, and I suppose we've seen some people with maiden heifers that didn't maybe make the weight in May. They put them in calf. It's not for everybody, but it is a way of maybe adding value and having a market for them.
It is, yeah. I think it adds value. Converting a spring to an autumn certainly adds value, and it's a good way to market surplus stock, yes.
John, blue tongue, So what is the reality of that on the ground, and what, how does it complicate trading
It's
animals?
a total pain is what it is. Hopefully it'll get some nice cold weather and it will try and kill the midges off, but I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. The reality is they have to be, you have to apply for a licence.
If you have blue tongue.
If you have blue tongue,
Yeah.
if you're in the zone, and then you have to have a pre-movement test, which is done by DEFRA, Department of Agriculture. Then they issue a licence if they're tested clear, but it's up to them whether they let them go or not. And then once they've moved, they have to do a post-movement test as well. So it's just slowing everything down, and it's up to the department vets as to whether they let them go as well. So it's very frustrating because a lot of the cattle that are for sale in the blue tongue zone would sell no problem at all, but there's not that many active buyers or dairy farmers in the blue tongue zone. So it's
a challenge.
It's a real challenge. Yeah. Very frustrating.
Yeah. Noel, back to a point you made there about maybe people trading up their stock. What would you be saying, say, a quality animal at the moment, say, black and white animal, what is that in figures wise, or how does that read?
I suppose it depends on what age of animal you're trying to buy in. So if you want to buy in a calf, if you want to buy in a non-lactating animal or a non-milking animal, you're basing it on the genetic indexes. EBI is probably a currency that people could look at, which is one figure to give you kind of a broad spectrum of the genetic merit of the animal. But when we look at a lot of crop performance reports. When we're selling a group of stock, we kind of insist on looking at crop performance report to gauge the animals, so to gauge the quality of the herd that they're from. And the reality is that probably 50% of the population, 50% of the herds out there are below average in terms of the outputs in the main kilos of mixed solids output. And so even the bottom 50%, you're not talking about culling the bottom 50%, we used to call it before herd cripplers. There's animals in that herd that probably should never be bred to a dairy bull. You should never breed a replacement from individual cows in the herd. So the first thing is to try to identify which cows that they are. Okay, so milk recording will tell you that. Their genetic indexes, their kilos of fat and protein, and their PTAs for fat and protein will determine that for you as well. And it's just making the decision. If you're going to keep them, they get a beef bull, but they never get a dairy bull. And bringing it a step further, then, okay, listen, she's on the cull list. She's not contributing in a meaningful way to the herd. She's not going to raise my average, and so you're deciding to cull her. And look, there's good beef prices at the moment. And then you're trying to replace it with an animal that's probably, again, as I said, definitely in the top 10% within the population for that particular trait that you want to improve. Most people are looking for kilos of mixed solids. So plus, we have groups of in-calf heifers and calves at the moment that are practically all the animals in the bunch could be definitely over 20 kilos of fat and protein. With PTAs probably greater than 0.2 and maybe for fat and 0.15, which is predicting huge solids percentages, which will obviously give you an increase in kilos of mixed solids, but also that extra few cents in milk price. And it's just trying to replace one with the other. Use the information that's there. They're there at value now.
So somebody with a poor performing herd versus someone with a high performing herd, what is it in reality for a guy with 100 cows, do you think? What are they leaving behind?
Oh, again, I suppose financially I'm not sure. Okay, but in herds that would be in the top again maybe the top 10% invariably could be producing anywhere between 520 and 550 kilos of mixed solids. Probably the average within a co-op performance report or that milk buyer could be somewhere around the 460, 470 kilos. And then you go to the bottom 20% of herds, they might only be producing 420, 430, 440 kilos of mixed solids per cow. And we've even seen some of them that are less than that again.
Yeah.
So it's significant,
Yeah.
Significant. And okay, so performance is based on genetics, is based on environment, it's based on management. So again, management may be a big contributing factor, but where management is right, and again, you could look at, we can look at the average EBI and genetic indexes for the herd, and from that then we should be able to predict how much kilos of milk solids and how much fat and protein they're producing. Now, if they're producing that and more, well, then you know the management is good. Okay, but if they're producing a lot less than what the genetic information is telling us, well, then you know there's something wrong with the management. And so then you know what needs to be improved first. But if the management is high and they're underperforming, well, then you know the genetics can improve then, or you should be looking to improve the genetics.
Right. Yeah. Just people striving for quality, it's worth the effort. Where they've a problem to fix, you know, for generations and years to come, the reward is huge.
Yeah, and again, breeding is cumulative. You know, once you raise the level and you breed the best to the best, then like one side of it, we're looking at the dam side. Okay, then you have the other decision that a lot of people will be making now through the months of December and January, ordering semen for the breeding season in May, sitting down early, getting that done early, and again, very clear, identifying the traits you want to improve and identifying the best bulls to improve that. And it's a simple idea, but a lot of people don't do it.
To pick up on that, Bertie, as well, I suppose for just any farmers watching, you know, they can go into ICBF themselves and they can look at their own PTAs. I suppose really the proof in the pudding for us, and we look at it as well, is we can see an animal that has very high PTA percentages for fat or for protein. We can look at a dam's milk recording, and you can see that dam has, we'll say, 4% protein, 5% fat, and you can see that it's coming through on, we'll say, that in-calf effort. So for anybody who wants to look themselves, it is worth looking at, and that's where we're pulling the PTA figures from. And you know, once an animal is genomically tested again, you know the reliability is higher again, so it just gives you confidence in what you're buying, that it's genomically tested, and again you can see on the milk recording for however many lactations are there, and you can see where the quality is coming from, you know.
Pat, there'll be sellers looking at this here on the video, so in the next few months they'll be making decisions what to breed, how many dairy bulls to use and stuff like that. So some people are going to say that I'm going to have my bare minimum, and some people are just going to put in the rest in beef or whatever. So obviously there's demand for high quality stock. You know, a seller's going to ask, you know, will you have demand for them? It's hard to say one way or the other, but like, what confidence can you give a potential
quality will sell always, you know. So once you're breeding off the best cows, you know, and producing, and again, I suppose with the way the spring block calving has tightened up so much over the last 10 years, guys who are calving to AI, they're going to be February born, so the stock are going to be they're going to be old enough and well reared, you know, because they're going to be the oldest calves within the group of calves that farmer is going to be keeping. Where do we see them, Bertie? Look, unfortunately, TB is still there. I'd love to say that when those animals will be flipped and being sold as in-calf heifers, TB will be eradicated. It probably won't. Okay, so there is going to be still TB buyers. A lot more, the lads can speak about maybe the flying herds that are very commonplace in the UK. We're starting to see a lot more of them in Ireland as well, where guys, I suppose, breed everything to beef, and in, we'd say, 100 cow farm, he's buying in 15 replacements every year, whatever percent he needs to buy in to replace the cows that have gone out the other side. That's becoming a lot more common now in Ireland, so we will see more, the demand will be there from them as well. But look, unfortunately TB will be there, and we will have the flying herds that are established, and it is working well on certain situations or for certain farmers. They're going to be there as well, and look, I think there still is conversions going on, and we I suppose within the other parts of the business here in Grasstech, you're seeing it. There is guys planning to get into milk again in 2-3 years time or whatever, you know.
Yeah, no, and I think with the milk price, if the milk price is where it is and it stays there, and it's people can make a decent living and a decent return, there will be new entrants.
Yeah.
And you know, there will be a milk supply.
Yeah. Beef is probably more. It's going to fluctuate more. I suppose beef is very good this year.
Yeah.
Look, you'd love to see it good again next year. A lot of exports with the beef at the moment.
Yeah.
So.
And if ever we've seen a commodity with huge swings in prices, like beef is it, like, so it's a hard one to pin down.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, but just to press the point of the whole idea of the flying herds, the reality of it is that there are some herds should be flying herds or should move to a flying herd situation. It's not just the genetics of the herd that they have themselves. Again, it might relate back to nitrates, but it just physically cannot keep the additional animals in the farm anymore. Or maybe they're maximising out the milking platform and at the expense of young stock. Okay,
yeah.
So that's a reason for a flying herd situation. And unfortunately, some people are not good at rearing young stock, and so they might be keeping their own replacements, but just not making a good job of it. And that then affects the outputs of the animals as adult animals. Labour is another thing. Yeah. Labour can be in short supply as well on some farms. So just developing into a flying herd, taking the extra workload and the problems associated with young stock rearing. Pass that off to somebody else.
Yes.
You buy what you want when you want it, and the number that you want. So there's a lot of benefits to it.
Yeah.
It's a very easy system, Ryan, as well. Like, I suppose you'd see more well established in the UK at this stage. It's an easy system to run.
It is, yeah, and you talk about PTAs and genetic gains. The quickest way to improve a herd would be, rather than using AI, is to sell and buy it back in. And I think we've seen that with the heifers we've exported to Italy this time, is that they're coming from herds doing close to 550 kilos milk solids, whereas we're probably not quite at that in the UK yet. You've got the 3.8, 3.9 proteins and the high fats. But, we're not quite there. We're still at a bit of a smaller crossbred on the spring calving system in the UK, and also these more more genetic advanced heifers. They will suit other systems in the UK. They'll suit the all year round calving people, feeding close to 2 tonne of concentrate. And these heifers will do that 8,000 litres in a different environment.
Yeah, to respond to feed, yeah.
They will, and their heifer numbers are down worldwide and specifically in the UK. The demand is going to be there for dairy heifers come, especially the way, like you say, more herds are being used for beef. There's there's more poorer end of the herds being put to beef.
Yeah.
People are looking for different places to source young stock from, in calf heifers.
Yeah.
John, just to maybe finish again and draw close to the discussion here, what do you see demand for, say for you, where you are in the UK, say come late this year now and into the spring?
Well, things at the point of profit again, sort of freshly calved animals, particularly black and whites, maybe for an all year round calving system. And then there's still demand there for autumn calvers, people that have actually served them. I think that demand will always be there for foreseeable future. So yeah, that would be my demand at the moment.
Right, and so just on that demand where you are down in Somerset, down the south,
Yeah.
Are they block calving, spring calving, autumn, or everything?
I've got everything where I am, and sadly TB is also a big issue in the southwest. So yeah, there's always people looking to replace what they've lost.
Yeah.
So yeah, there would be a real mixture. There is springbok calvers in places. There's one or two switching from spring calving to totally autumn, and yeah, there's other people that are getting rid of the autumn block and going totally spring. So it's all over the place really. So yeah.
Moving slightly north, Matthew, what's your demand?
Very similar to John, really, to be honest, Bertie. Fresh calf cows, anything close to calving. We have got a demand for spring calving heifers up our way. But again, it's mainly black and white heifers, front to block calving, and we've got quite a few good leads come in looking for spring calf cows in the spring. So, hopefully we will have a few herds that come up for sale. People are changing systems, vice versa, spring to autumn or autumn to spring. Demand is still there, but primarily for the black and whites that are capable of giving high yields in any different sorts of systems.
Yeah, very good. Pat, maybe specifically on herd sales, say, what have you got demand for, or what would you welcome, I suppose, inquiries on?
We have demand, I suppose, Bertie, there's a range. There's guys who have lost the herd to TB and again buying in one full closed herd. Massive advantage, if you're worried about the TB situation on a farm. And with the sea cert, I suppose we can know each farm's years of being TB negative. So definitely TB is a big thing for buying in herds that are TB free. Again, from what Noel has said, again, you're looking at herds that are close to that 500 kilos milk solids, be that through volume or through solids. I suppose we have different buyers looking for different things, but again, they all kind of circle around back to that key marker of that 500 kilos milk solids. You want them AI bred ideally, if the vast majority of the herd being AI bred, maybe a mixture of stock bull or some stock bulls in it as well, but AI bred, 500 kilos milk solids, and a good clean TB history. They're the main criteria that someone who picks up the phone to us is they're the first nearly questions out of the mouth, really.
Okay, so some sellers, herd sellers, may be curious about the process. What is the process in terms of the sale? What happens in reality?
Yeah, so I suppose it's an honour to be called out to anyone, Bertie, who's looking at selling their cows, because it is a very emotional decision for someone to do it firstly. So we take pride in that. So yeah, we would go out on farm and look at the herd of cows. Probably what we get beforehand is we would get the logins for ICBF and just have an idea of the age profile and be able to give a concise, I suppose, summary to the farmer then once we've the herd seen and looked through, and we have the information there as well already looked at. A lot of the herds that we have, we don't actually need to put them on the website. We will get them sold before they go to the website. So again, it's very private for people. It's not been blasted out, you know, that's certain person is selling the herd of cows, because again, it is a big decision to make. We would bring a buyer in, I suppose, once we've all the information gathered and summarised, we would put that to prospective buyers that we have and bring the best client that we see fit to buy this particular herd of cows. I suppose on the money side of it, we will get an indication of the seller what they're looking for. We will have that told to the buyer before they'll arrive, so there isn't a massive difference between the two parties when it comes to it. Hopefully both parties will agree on a price and the animals move, but payment is made before the animals moved in as well. So
Yeah.
I suppose giving that security to the seller then as well, and from a buyer, I suppose you're going into the 1 yard. The big thing, Bertie, I've seen over the years is people like that bit of time, you know, be it the seller or the buyer. They just like to have those couple of hours maybe to think of their decision and think about it and go through all the possibilities that are making the right. It's a massive decision, it's a massive investment, and they like to have that bit of time just to know that they're after making the right decision for buyer and seller.
Yeah, very good. And Noel, maybe look at the back end of the year. It's just we've had a good growing year. I suppose it's the whole management of grass feed into the spring, drying off cows, you know, keeping cows out grazing. Just to finish on that, maybe management piece. What would your suggestion be?
Yeah, and I suppose we made the point earlier on that the last 3 weeks or so have been exceptional. And invariably the autumn grass growing season has been quite good. Now it still only makes up a small proportion of the total tons grown on the farm. People or farms grow the majority of their total tonnage in the summertime. So the good grass growing autumn is probably leading to challenges now, because average farm cover is high. Probably, you know, the last 4 or 5 days weather has been poor. Storm Bert just came through, and so that has kind of driven a lot of herds indoors. There's still a lot of grass out there. Some people may not have got those last few paddocks grazed, and equally because grass grew so well since it started closing in early October, some of those covers are already possibly too high to carry through the winter. So look, it leads to its own challenges. Nobody knows what the next 2 months are going to bring in terms of the weather, so it's better to be looking at it than to be looking for it. And again, so I would say, you know, turnout grass supply should not be an issue on farms, because there's a lot, because they're going in with high closing covers at the moment. So sure, hopefully with ground conditions improve or stay good in the springtime, it's all conducive to early turnout, you know, and that's always desirable then as well. Early turnout will help then those people who are still maybe moderately worried about how much silage they have in clamps, if they don't have it, if they're worried about not having enough. So I would say that side of it looks good, you know. Again, we don't know what way December, January is going to bring, but it's a positive anyway, you know.
Yeah, very good. Look, that's a wrap, I suppose, for the year just gone, and I suppose look for, be it buyers or sellers who want advice, who may be considering selling, buying, whatever decisions they have. I suppose, look, we have people here who have a lot of experience to help and guide people through that path. So I suppose, look, thank you for watching, and there's some contact numbers here at the end of the video. Okay, thank you.